Now we're live.
Great. Grand.
Yeah, great, grand.
Well, cool. Here we are again with another episode of Star Wars Loose Cannon. I'm Patrick Ebersole.
Alex Lowe.
And I'm Nick Oswald.
Great. The gang is back together. It's been a good gap of time, but there's been some things that have happened since the last time we streamed, the last time we recorded. And I believe our big guy Nick actually he's come back a changed man in the time.
Thank you for calling me a big guy.
You're a grande man. That's Spanish for grand man. So he has some things that he'd like to share with us on some of the adventures that he's taken and some of the, dare I say, cool cats he's engaged with.
This is the May the 4th segment. Remember?
Oh well, we'll swatch it. We'll swap that. Well, here's the other thing though, and we're gonna get around to that. No, we're also going to talk about some people who are just general fans of Star Wars, and that actually includes us, funny enough. Because we're coming up, Justin Timberlake's talked a little bit about this. It's going to be May the 4th, and that's a big Star Wars day. Why is May the 4th important, guys?
You know, that first week of May is just ripe for memes. Like, as you mentioned, the Justin Timberlake meme that I saw plenty of times, always a good one since 2010. And then, of course, May the 4th, which I wish we looked into this a little bit more. I mean, I guess we are a podcast. We should have maybe researched this. But May the 4th, I don't think is too long of a tradition. I want to say it's probably less than 10 years, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I have to say that personally, the Jay Timberlake meme started souring on me a little bit because I think as soon as everyone started getting the joke, everyone just started ramming it on other people. It was kind of like the Borat of memes. And I personally, as a man of refined culture and taste, much preferred just the Justin Timberlake where he's mischievously glaring into the camera, because that just really said it all for me. I'm like, I get it. You don't have to say it. It is going to be May.
I want to say around the time that we were still working together, fellas, is when that joke was actually still funny.
Yeah. That's when it was hitting its peak level of saturation.
Right nowadays, what it's used for, instead of sending memes, to coworkers, now it's used for influencers to repackage on their Instagram. And use it in some sponsored post type way. Like today, I saw someone who was a dog Instagram influencer. So the dog,
the dog
himself,
influencer. Okay,
yeah, the dog himself was an influencer. His name is Pickles. He's a pug.
Okay.
And the owner fashioned a dry ramen noodles on his head, like Justin Timberlake's blonde frosted tips.
Oh. So, I understand.
That's the kind of fun that It's Gonna Be May has brought.
That's 4D memeing, I believe.
Yeah, that's fourth dimensional chess right there.
There's better May days. I mean, the whole weekend we got May the 4th and Cinco de Mayo. May 3rd was not only the day that the new Japanese Constitution went into effect after World War II, but it was also the day that the Anne Frank Museum was christened, I guess would be the word.
I want to say bummer commemorations.
Well, it's also the day, May 3rd, 2001, was when Spider-Man, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, came out in theaters. So, coincidence? I think not.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm done, guys, with the Bible references and stuff. I now only talk about World War II.
I only talk about Tobey Maguire, so it's not a lot. But May the 4th, that's a big one. That's a big one for our audience here because it's Star Wars. It's a little fun, it's gonna be May type joke because it's a little play on words. Because unless Alec Guinness got a lisp, it wouldn't really be the exact thing. So we're kind of we play along with it. We're it's close enough. It's a great holiday for us all to just ram our enjoyment of Star Wars onto other people, and then even worse, the people who don't like Star Wars, who like to walk around and be like, do you know I've never even seen a Star Wars? Isn't that crazy? Aren't I unique? It's the same people who say they've never seen Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's exactly what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I've never seen Game of Thrones. It seems like something that people are posting on social media. And I'm your resident contrarian uncle that has never seen it, so I'm going to tell you about it.
Yeah, well,
To be fair, I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Well, you're also a resident contrarian uncle, so isn't that?
Yeah, but I don't post about the fact I don't watch Game of Thrones. I'm just overwhelmed by the backlog.
Well, you did just announce it on a nationally streaming podcast,
Syndicated.
on a very
National
live and
national. We're international.
That's true. This is true.
I forgot to turn that switch. Dang it. Well, cool. Well, we all watch Star Wars, right? So let's talk about
Star Wars.
I've seen at least one of them, so I'll say that much. Let's talk about what got us into a Star Wars. Who took us to our first Star Wars, and who we might feel a little bit of indebtedness, that's a word, to for having introduced us to the Star Wars.
Hitherto for introduced
at this juncture.
Yeah, wouldn't be prudent.
Yeah. Alex, you go, because you don't watch Game of Thrones.
All right. So, well, if the question is my first Star Wars, I am... I don't have a full memory, but the first one I remember watching was one of the premiere as in one of the best. That would have been episode 1.
Alex is like, I was in California, and this young man named Jake Lloyd approached me, and I woke up, and I was wearing his clothes, and I was on the red carpet.
At the premiere.
But I remember watching episode 1, and I saw all of the others. I must have been by the end of elementary school, but I wouldn't have called myself a Star Wars fan until probably much later than most of you and our listeners. It was probably like mid-high school when I really got into it.
Ooh, a late bloomer.
Yeah, I had a group of friends. I'll give them shout-outs on this podcast. Guys by the name of Matt Lydon, Chris Sedgwick, Charlie Schaefer, and the rest of that crew who were very, very into Star Wars. And
there's also like guys that'll be on ESPN radio at some point. They all have good names for that.
Half of them might have been. Yeah. But yeah, they were really into it. And in hanging out, we started doing this thing where we would watch the trilogy every once in a while in Matt Lydon's basement. And they were also really into playing Knights of the Old Republic and things like that. And it just kind of spiraled from there, and then I obviously overtook them because I'm way cooler and way more intense than they are.
So you got into the prequels before you got into the original trilogy?
Well, I remember seeing episode 1, but perhaps I saw the others as a kid. My parents weren't big Star Wars fans. Like, my dad's obviously seen all the movies growing up in that time, but it's not like the kind of thing that I imagine any of us would do if we ever got tricked into having kids, where it'd be like, all right, they're 4 years old, we got to introduce them to Star Wars right now.
So if they pull the old switcheroo on you and suddenly you have kids.
Yeah. That was not my dad.
Yeah.
He's not a giant fan. He likes them just fine. We've seen a couple of
the regular size fan.
Yeah. So it wasn't like as a little kid I was all about them. So I may have seen episode 4 or 5 or something when I was little, but the first one I remember watching was episode 1.
I have to say, Alex, and I completely respect your fandom, I do suspect a little bit of fear of you identifying as a Star Wars fan who saw the prequels before you saw the original ones. And I'm sensing that through your alibi.
Weren't you guys both born in 1990?
91.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you're right in the wheelhouse of that. So that's one of the cool things about this is we're going to get, and I suppose in 10 years we should have a host that was born in like 2000 or 2010 or something, so they can tell us how cool it was to watch The Force Awakens as their first Star Wars movie or something like that. So
and that would
children.
That would be the right gap too, because 91 to 2010, and then you were 1972, Nick?
Yeah,
I was 35 when I saw the Phantom Menace.
He had just gotten back from Nam, and he was...
I got the memo too late. I didn't get the memo until 1999.
Well, cool.
It's like the Japanese that were left on the South Pacific Islands that thought that the newspapers were lying to them, but still kept fighting until the 70s. Yeah, that's me.
I like that in the loose cannon lore. Well, nice. Alex, that is a charming and some might say endearing story.
Some might.
Some might.
Danny Schaefer and Chris Wales,
Bill Simmons,
the whole crew.
Nice. Nick, I want to hear about that time with you on the island watching your first film reel.
Yeah. I got the reel-to-reel. It was the first time that I saw 1977's Star Wars: The Motion Picture.
I was at a show with Bob Hope, and he was rallying the troops, and he brought out a little carton of film and put it up, and he said, "Just watch one of these talkies. You see,
Go see a Star Wars.
go see a Star Wars."
Yeah, exactly. Is that my cue to tell my story?
Yeah, tell your story.
Yes.
Tell us the truth.
Devotees of this podcast will remember my origin Star Wars story. I'm not going to tell that one here because you just got to go back in our back catalog and give us another download for that. I believe that's the Star Wars nostalgia episode. If you see the word nostalgia, you're in the right place. But go see that for the origin story. I'm going to tell you about my second awakening when it comes to Star Wars. So, unlike you two, I was the wrong age for the Phantom Menace.
Wait, I think Bono was almost exactly the right age for it.
Oh, okay, what's the punchline here?
He's saying on like U2, like the band. Yeah.
I hate you so much. You're fired.
I think you have to pay me to fire me.
This is true. Okay. You're gonna still continue being our intern, our Bible study intern.
Thanks.
Our Bible fact checker.
Our youth pastor.
Yeah, our youth pastor.
Come on, guys. It's Star Wars.
You know, he's kind of like a space Jesus. A little guy named Luke Skywalker.
Remember that time he rose from the ashes? Let me tell you about another guy who rose again.
I thought that was going to be a reference to the television show Heroes. Anyway, Greg Grunberg, J.J. Abrams. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you about my second awakening because unlike what you guys referred to, I wasn't alive for Nam. So I was born in 1986, which made me the ripe age of 13 for the Phantom Menace, and well past my I'm too cool for all of this stage. I mean, of course, I was excited for it because it was like the dawn of the internet age. So you were able to see some images on the internet, although not like we have now. And in fact, I mean, I wasn't old enough to be able to do this, but the people that would go to see, what was it, Meet Joe Black, just to see the trailer and leave. Yeah. Because so it there wasn't enough internet to get that, but there was enough hype to at least know to go see Meet Joe Black. I wasn't old enough for that, but of course I saw it. I wasn't in high school yet, and I started to get a little bit jaded. I left the fandom a little bit. I think I got too moody having gone through the dark period of the 90s, that period that really didn't have any Star Wars until the special editions in 1997. So there was a dormant time where I not that I wouldn't call myself a Star Wars fan, but just where it just wasn't a salient part of my identity anymore. But fast forward to 2010. I got an internship actually with a friend of mine. It's called, I'm not going to name the place, but it was international law related, and I met this fella named Joe Trenzio. You may remember this name.
Callback.
Callback. Joe Trenzio is our actual show lawyer, our resident galactic law professor.
He's trying to figure out how we can legally get Alex out of the show.
Yeah, I got to check our contract. He's very good. He's a very good lawyer, especially when it comes to torts and etc. Anyway, so a little fella named Joe Trenzio actually started a debate in the office one day about what a parsec is. And up until that point, it's a throwaway, it was sort of a throwaway line for a while. It's like, the guy who did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. But then he actually, in my kid brain, I just assumed that was speed or time. But of course, he had the debate. It wasn't much of a debate. It was more of a treatise, if you will. I think that's more of like a law thing, right? And he talked to us about the fact that a parsec is a unit of measure. It's a unit of distance. So in fact, when he was saying 12 parsecs, that wasn't impressive because his ship was fast, because most ships' sublight speeds are rather light speeds are about the same because they're going into hyperspace in the same rate. But the fact that he was going about the maw, the thing we see in Solo, and making jumps so short and quick across different places, that was the part that was impressive, because he was able to take risk and go back and forth and actually get out of the Kessel Run using shortcuts that you weren't supposed to take. And of course, we see, in the Solo movie, what that actually means. And I think that like awakened something in me, right? So that was, oh, there's more to this than that. There's a part of Star Wars that I like to dissect. I want to, basically do a reading of something and deep dive into a subject, much like we do as a podcast. And honestly, Joe Trenzio is probably the reason why I asked you guys to do a Star Wars podcast.
Wow.
Straight up.
Wow.
Sounds like you should ask Joe instead. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Joe's very busy. As I said, he's an actual lawyer.
Praise be to Joe.
Yeah. But he, before there was me and Patrick, there was me and Joe, because there's a moot court competition in DC that I was with this company that I was interning for. And when we went to the gala, the teams like from different countries who were representing these international law things, they were dressed up in different costumes. And that was the genesis of me buying the Chewbacca mask.
Oh.
And creating hipster Chewbacca. So I had like a brown cardigan that I put a messenger bag over, and I used reflective duct tape to actually, I think I went over like battery packs and packs of gum and stuff like that to make it look like the bandolier. And we went around to the gala, and the team that worked for this company all dressed as Star Wars, and Joe was the Han Solo to my Chewbacca. So
that is charming.
So my May 4th wishes and best wishes goes out to Joe Trenzio, LLC. I don't know the name of how he practices, but he's our lawyer. He's our best boy, and he's I texted him a really sappy text on the Sunday night of Star Wars Celebration. I'm like, if it weren't for you and how you talk and how you dissect everything like a lawyer does, I probably wouldn't have been at Celebration, and I wouldn't be, talking to you two right now.
Wow, that's heartwarming, Nick. I want to take a second.
Sorry,
before...
I wasn't that heartwarming.
I
don't think anything you've ever done has warmed my heart.
We know you're not capable of that, Alex. It's okay. Before we go into my next bit, I wanted to say a little second just to say that I'm really thankful to Nick for coming to us with this topic idea, because I think that for any fandom or anything that we're really passionate about, whether it be Batman, Marvel movies, or in Alex's case, the Bible, we always have one person who introduced us to that. Usually, I think we don't really stumble across those things always on our own. So this is like a nice moment for us to be able to like look at how other people have kind of paid it forward and passed on their passion to another person, and how we're all capable of doing that. So I think that's a really cool thing. My story is not, I guess, as I don't know if I can wring as much emotionality out of it, but it's pretty simple. I was 7, 6 or 7 actually. So I think I was 6 because that's when the remasters came out. And I think it was a Friday. I got out of school, and my dad picked my sister and I up from school. I was in 1st grade at the time, and he just did the coolest thing a dad can do when they're taking you home from school, which is like, "Hey, surprise, we're going to the movies." Which, I mean, back in my day, and even today for me, but back in my day as a kid, going to the movies was like one step below going to like a theme park for the day. It was like McDonald's, movie theater, theme park. And so I was feeling pretty awesome about that. And it was to this movie called Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And I didn't know anything about Star Wars at this point, so I was completely blind going in, and it was the 3rd in a trilogy. So it was probably missing some notes, but I didn't really care as a kid. I was just taking in the spectacle of it. And I would say of those original 3 movies, that's probably the best one for like a kid who's not really paying attention to like a lot of the details. It's one of the best ways to get the essence of Star Wars without really having to pay attention to the characters and the story that's being built. So all I knew was there was a good guy named Luke. He's the blonde one with the green lightsaber, and there's a bad guy named Darth Vader. He's the bad guy with the red lightsaber. And I liked it a lot. It was very entertaining. And so for that upcoming Halloween, I was Darth Vader. And I battled some kid at a Halloween party on a trampoline who was dressed up as Luke. And I was that weird psycho kid that would get too much into the lightsaber fight, and I'd start like hitting them over and over again, like in a true Sith fashion. Because I was like, well, I won, so now I get to beat you senseless. And he was like 2 years older, so it's fine. So there was that story. That was like the absolute beginning for me. this next one, man, this is really gonna make me sound like I was a terrible child, probably because I was. Phantom Menace came out, I think about 7 months later, and there was this unspoken agreement between me and my dad. Shout out to Bill Ebersol, where he said, "Hey, listen. So we had a color chart in my second grade class where if you were good, you stayed on the green one. If you were bad, you went down to the yellow, and if you were really bad, you went down to the red. And different punishments or incentives based on where you went on the color chart." So I had a real problem with staying in the green zone. I'd always start slipping down because I was a real rascal. Apparently I was assaulting children all the time. No, but so the agreement was that if I could go a week without going down one color, I could go see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace with my dad that Friday when I got out of school. And so I was like, okay, I agree. I'll do my best. I'm on the straight and narrow, Pops, I promise. And so Friday comes, and I'm in my second grade teacher, Miss Lapid's class. She was a very strict teacher. And my friend Blake and I, we were playing checkers. Now it's like 2:30. It's almost 3 o'clock. And he decides, I don't know why, to put a checker in his mouth. And just start whatever. And I was like, oh man, you're not supposed to put that in your mouth. We're going to get in trouble because you're eating the checkers. I got to stop this before I get in trouble. So I do what any person would naturally do in this situation, and I take my fingers and shove them into Blake's mouth to try and pull the checker out. Well, apparently that didn't look good because my teacher saw me trying to put my fist in this kid's mouth.
Trying to give this kid a trach.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to pull out the checker so I wouldn't get in trouble. She obviously didn't take it the same way that I did. And I got moved down like in the last 10 minutes of class. I walked out of the classroom to my dad, who was like waiting to pick me up, and I remember that feeling of like going from like a neutral face to just all be like Palpatine's face getting fried by electricity, just
unlimited pouting.
Yeah, exactly. Immediately sobbing. Immediately like, I tried, I can't be good, whatever. And I think he just had already bought the tickets, and he was like, well, screw it, we're going anyways. And he was like annoyed with me, but I still got to see Star Wars. So that was my phase 1 of becoming a Star Wars fan.
You just say I kept my friend from choking to death.
And that, I saved a man's life. I saved a child's life.
Saved a man's life.
My phase 2, the other person I want to give a shout out to is my friend Sean Ladd from middle school. Because I think you've talked about it a bit, Nick. I'm sure you have some of this too in your backstory, Alex. So my initial interest in Star Wars came from those two movies, but my radicalization into the Star Wars fan you see today came from my friend Sean in middle school, who was the first guy that we started coming up with concepts and theories and playing with the idea of these characters from movies and talking about all the video games that were coming out and who's this Jango Fett? Like, oh, that's Boba's dad. That's so weird. And getting Star Wars encyclopedias and reading them together. And so
he was your ISIS recruiter of Star Wars.
Yeah, he was my ISIS recruiter. He was the guy that turned me into the Star Wars terrorist you see today. So,
that's accurate way to put the show.
Yeah. So we'll radicalize Star Wars fans on here, for the forces of good, though, not the bad ones. Yeah. So those are my two big shout outs. A little long-winded as usual, but that's kind of how things go when I talk on here. So
yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Aaron Spain, another friend of the show who's been on the show before. Similar to who you were talking about with radicalization. I think probably one of the reasons why I was really into it in grade school, so not as an adult, because that's Joe's fault. But the reason I was into his grade school is because he had the coolest toys. He had the B-Wing, which wow, I'm gonna get kind of teary-eyed here. But when Aaron and Shauna got married in 2017, he gave me his B-Wing as a groomsman gift.
Oh man, that's so nice.
So at the time, I think, I'm not much of a crier. At the time, I thought it was a really cool gesture, but I of course thanked him and hugged him. But like right now, when I think about it, it's like
it means
it means a lot to me.
That's really cool, man.
Shout out Aaron. Whenever he gets caught up to the episodes, he'll hear this.
You should get that like framed or something.
It's on my desk at work.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I think the thing that we've noticed is like Star Wars initially was a cool concept, and then we noticed just how deep it could go and how much detail there was, and that was the thing for me that I think really had my curious mind keep going. because it's just, as this podcast is explained, sometimes there's something that seems simple and then you type it into the internet, or you look at something on a TV show or in a video game and you find out there's a lot more to it, and it keeps on keeping your curiosity snowballs a bit. So, so yeah. So you guys have any plans for May 4th? Were you going to be praying to the Star Wars elder gods or to the people who have radicalized us?
Well, so on May the 4th, if you're listening to this now, if I got this edited in time, or if Patrick got this edited in time, I will be in Madison, Wisconsin, going around to different breweries, and there are at least a couple that are doing Star Wars related releases.
It's awesome.
So
Madison,
that's how I will be.
Dagobah of Wisconsin.
Yeah, pretty much, or the Jakku.
I'm going to be at a track meet all day in Orange County, coaching. But that evening, I should be home, and I will probably be very tired from the track meet, and I'll plop on the couch and maybe do a little Russian roulette of my Blu-ray collection and watch whatever movie.
That's a good
I
way to
want.
put that.
Yeah, that's a good
Instead of
landing.
Eeny, meeny,
on that
miny,
one.
mo.
Yeah.
You picked the sadistic one. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Nice.
What about you, Patrick?
Mine's actually, initially I wasn't thinking it was going to be very Star Wars focused, but then I thought about it, and it's going to be, I'm going to be going to a coffee shop, and I'm going to be editing this episode, and I'm going to be working on a new banner for us, so it's going to be drawing Star Wars. Then I'll probably hang out with a friend, have some drinks, and then watch Star Wars at some point. So there'll be a good amount of Star Wars content.
That's swell.
So yeah.
Well, Patrick, we have to break a tradition this year.
Oh, what's that?
So I'm actually moving to my hometown of Rockford this summer. I don't know if we're going to be able to see the last one together, buddy.
Oh my God. Well, we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
You realize Rockford is like an hour and a half.
It's 90 minutes away, but it's going to be on a Thursday night. Like, obviously,
Nick,
it's a school
I
night.
will literally drive 2 hours in LA to get lunch with someone. You can go 90 minutes to
That's
watch
LA. Okay. All right.
I miss what Midwesterners don't care about each other that much.
This is why we have Patrick. Or sorry, this is why we have Alex on the podcast for these kind of reasonable nuggets. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a car, so that's my.
Nick's
that's
going to
my
take
album.
a half day off work, and you
Okay.
guys will get together and watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful.
Okay. There we go.
It'll make it that much more meaningful because
Figured it out.
Nick will have a big journey behind him as well. So, well,
See
cool.
if you can do it in under, I don't know, 4 parsecs. I don't know how far Rockford is.
90 parsecs.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, that will be our new suspenseful question for this upcoming movie is, will Nick and Patrick watch yet another Star Wars movie together? Tune in
The
and find out.
last Star Wars for a while,
Yeah, well, it's fitting because it's the end of this trilogy, so it'll give us a little
Until
bit of
I imagine the Game of Thrones guys are going to make a KOTOR. I would imagine.
I would hope,
Because because it's already knights and already medieval, but okay.
Mm-hmm. And then Ryan Johnson, he's got one. He's
Yep.
got a Star Wars, much to the chagrin of the crazed fans.
Yep. So we wish you all a happy May the 4th. Glad that we could be with you on it. And if you're listening to it on the May the 4th, May the 4th be with you. Go watch a Star Wars.
Yeah.
And my last tidbit for May the 4th, just to leave you with this parting nugget, according to Wikipedia,
Varchar Nugget.
the oak tree was a species of large, long-lived trees.
Wonderful. Great.
Wow, very suitable.
If you were listening to this podcast and you thought a little bit about where you learned about Star Wars from or who introduced you to it, how you got into it, go ahead and tweet at us. Give us a little bit of a blip of your story, and we'd be happy to recount it on our next episode at Star Wars LC, if you so please. And see if you can maybe make me seem like less of a terrible child through your own story. That would be nice for my conscience.
Hit somebody on the head with a lightsaber for Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, great. Thank you for listening, guys.
Yay!
Cool.
All right, so we'll take a little bit of a break. Is there anybody watching right now? I think we have one viewer.
So we should stop recording for your that one.
Are you with us right now, guys? You still there? No, you can keep recording. That's fine. We can
It
chop
could
it up.
just be me.
Okay.
I'm watching.
Yeah, I think it might be you.
We were so hopeful about the one fan. No, it's just
I have heard though some of the kids I coach apparently watch this to make
Nice.
fun.
No,
Yeah.
they do.
Nice.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, use this time for a bathroom break if you need to.
I'm good.
I don't believe in bathrooms.
Yeah.
So
I'm good.
do you want me to pause the stream, or you want us to keep streaming?
No,
in
we
between?
can keep streaming. There's nobody there.
So Nick, tell me about the Rockford plans. This seems like a new crazy
A little
development.
personal. So this is somewhat made official only a couple weeks ago. But we were starting to look, and around the holidays, we thought, it was always if you're from Rockford and you live somewhere else, the punchline is like, oh, when you move back to Rockford and never leave again. I guess that's probably not a Rockford thing. That's just everybody's hometown. But it stopped being a punchline. I'm like, okay, I think it's time. I mean, I know we're only 90 miles away, so I sound privileged compared to you, Patrick. But
check your privilege.
Yeah, check my privilege. But it just felt right, and we found a really good house, and we don't have to make any compromises. We can afford what we want and where we want, and we're close to family. And I always give the caveat: nobody's pregnant, nobody's sick, so we don't have to move there. But
That's good.
Nice.
If either of those things happen, we're there.
Nice. Are you still staying with your company? He's like working remotely, or?
Yeah, I'll be working remotely. So I'll be setting up an office and probably make a much better backdrop than this.
That's exciting, man.
Doing our show. The only part is I got to make sure I see you physically, Patrick, before I go.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. When are you thinking you're moving?
June 30th.
Okay. Yeah, we can make that work.
Coming up quick.
30 days has September.
April, June, and November.
Yep, that's a date.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we'll hang out again before.
Yeah,
then.
for sure. And as Alex says, it's 90 miles away. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I got to figure it out. I got to come into work every once in a while, but
People commute that.
yeah.
Is there a
Crazy
metro
people,
near
but people do.
Rockford, or is it?
No,
There is not a metro now.
Okay.
there's an Amtrak, I believe.
Nope, not even now.
Oh, really?
Nope.
On the note of Rockford, I was in Elizabeth, Illinois this weekend.
That is on the way to Galena.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you there? Was it track related?
Bachelor party.
Really?
Yeah, my buddy's fiance's family has a house there, so we just kind of went there, drank a bunch, smoked some meat, and hung out for the weekend. But I was there for the 5 inches of snow.
Oh yeah, it snowed on Sunday.
It was terrible. God.
Yeah, well, so we had plans to maybe go to a brewery and do a bunch of other stuff, and we ended up just staying at the house.
And Galena is really fun too. And that's 20 minutes from Galena.
Yeah.
So that's too bad.
Yeah, it was a good time though. I was with all those Star Wars guys I just mentioned.
Oh, Bill Schneider and
Bill Simmons and well, now I have to seem like my life's exciting. I'm going to Hawaii in 2 weeks.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that'll disrupt our recording schedule, but I'll be gone from the 18th through the 25th.
It's okay.
You'll overlap with my friend Sam. He's going to be in Hawaii.
Cool.
You can hang out with him.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll go to a volcano and look at it.
I'm feeding his birds while he's gone. Not his birds, the birds that live in his yard.
Oh, that's kind
Apparently, they want someone to put out bird seed.
They don't belong to anybody.
Yeah. So you and Sam should hang out. He's cool.
Are you, Patrick, are your West plans at all this year? Or no?
Oh, dude. Yeah, I think I'm going to revisit that because this last winter, man, I don't know. I don't know if
hasn't ended yet.
My
really.
emotional state can take it anymore. So I would like to know what it feels like to be warm again. So yeah, I think I'm gonna.
Terrible.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start looking again. Start firing up the old search. See what I can get going. So yeah, no timetable on it, but the interest is reignited for sure. So yeah. It would be less than more than a 90-minute or 90-mile distance at that point. But you have pals out west in general, so
yeah.
And also Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is opening this summer.
Yeah.
So and when it calms down in 3 years, we should go.
Ooh, we'll talk about that in the next episode here.
Okay, and
that was a big component of Star Wars Celebration.
Small aside for me because I know we need to save it for that episode.
Yeah.
I've read up on the lightsaber construction. Do you know about it?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be so cool.
I'm probably just gonna request Luke's lightsaber. Let's be honest. But
Yeah, it's just like when I go to Harry Potter, I just want Harry
I
Potters.
just love that they're heavy, man. Just
Yeah,
love it.
and you build them yourself, and you put a little crystal in there. Yeah, mwah. Chef's kiss.
I'll make
God, should we
a
start-
Guy Fury saber.
Yeah.
Put some
Should
donkey
we,
sauce in there.
Start the next one.
Yeah, if you guys are ready.
I got a pork shoulder slow cooking, and I'm absolutely starving.
You truly are the contrarian uncle of this podcast.
Got a pork shoulder.
That's such an uncle thing to say.
Oh
Can we
my
hurry this
God.
up? I got pork shoulder going. All right, cool. Well, I guess I just jump right into this one, and this one I can actually say Star Wars Celebration as the topic of this one.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of edit our way out of a paper bag for that one, but it's
We
fine.
can, or whatever. I mean, I guess if I'm editing that one, I can just do like a blatant talking about May the 4th and put that in there.
Well,
But,
one thing I'm gonna have to do for you, Patrick, is I didn't hit record on my side for like a good 2 minutes, so I might have to like record something and then send it to you. Because
Okay.
there's a big swath where I'm not talking.
Just banter of
It's
Nick,
just we're very
I agree.
rusty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. Well, cool. Let's go ahead and jump into this one. Hey, to whoever is watching this, I don't think anybody currently is, but if you are,
Yeah.
welcome. If you're listening, I know we have more of those. Welcome. You are listening to Star Wars Loose Cannon. We're a Star Wars podcast, and as usual, I am Patrick Ebersol. With me today are...
Nick
Alex.
Oswald.
Here we go.
Baltic. I knew that was coming.
All right, Nick, you go. You say who you are.
Hey, it's Nick Oswald here.
All right.
And I'm Alexander Edward Lowe.
Nice.
That's what the E stands for. I always wondered.
It's his nice publisher name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I-
is the option name.
Or
Yeah.
like a very low-level duke of some British province that no longer exists.
Have you ghost written under any names? Like
If
our,
I told you that,
our
it
a
wouldn't,
pseudonym?
If I told you that, it wouldn't be ghostwriting, would it?
A.E. Lowe is a really great mystery novel writer. name.
Yeah, I've submitted a few things under AE Low that are not published.
It almost sounds like a bunch of vowels.
A
AE Low.
E I O U and sometimes Y.
Yeah.
Low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, nice. So we just we're jumping into another nice podcast tonight about a pretty exciting topic. That's actually topical. 'Cause
Topical, yeah.
It's a recent development with some great tidbits of news. But more important than the news from it is the experience, because our very own Nicholas J. What's your middle name?
Michael. You got it.
Nicholas Michael J. Oswald.
Michael J. Yeah, Keaton. Yeah.
Uh,
Fox.
Yeah. Attended Star Wars Celebration in Chicago this year. Nick, tell us about the fun times.
I sure did. You know, it was a pleasure letting you guys live vicariously through me during that time. So it was really, really fun. Boy, do I have a doozy of stories for you. But where do I begin? You guys want it in order? Do you want what do you want to hear about first?
I want you to just start with the most exciting things, or the things that come to the front of your mind first, and then we'll just follow the passion.
Okay. Well, Eric, there's a reason why I wanted to do a positive May the 4th episode before we do this one, because this is going to go dark and this is going to go into the recesses of my mind. The recesses of my mind that only me, Nick Oswald, could go through by myself for 5 days at a conference. We're meeting other strangers, knowing vaguely of their whereabouts on the internet. It was basically gonzo journalism for me. It was loose cannon gonzo. It was Lonzo journalism, and I went right into the fire. I saw all of the lizard people, and they smiled back at me, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a wild time, and we'll get right into it. So let's start day by day. Right.
Okay.
So this is reminding me. I don't. You guys aren't really Chapo Trap House listeners, but this is going to be like when Chapo went to CPAC.
Okay.
Except for
just
I
like
actually
that.
like, except for when I like Star Wars as opposed to CPAC. But
Very similar fan bases.
yeah. So anyway, we this conference. There's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of there's a build up. There's what's going to happen. What are we going to see? Who are we going to see? Who are we going to meet? We did a lot of episodes just asking for advice on what we do, and of course, there's internet personalities and internet friends that we're looking to see. So the first day is actually Thursday. And of course, as you guys know, I live in Chicago, so didn't have to actually travel there. I got to sleep in my own bed every night. First of all, McCormick's Place had a couple of hiccups. So let's just say when you get there,
first one was not hiring me. Many years ago.
Yep, should have hired you.
All downhill since then.
That was the first red flag.
That was where his first mistake. But I remember going through the very exhaustive security line, and going up to the sales floor and not knowing, or sales floor, it basically was a sales floor. Going up to the show floor. And not knowing what all the lines were for, so everyone knew what they were doing at Star Wars Celebration. That was one of the things that kind of caught me off guard. They were all pros, and I just I didn't know what the heck was going on. So I get there, and there are two really long lines. There's one to actually get on the floor itself, because they let people into McCormick's Place actually several hours before they actually open the show floor. So I think they let people in at 11, but you couldn't actually get to the show floor until 1. And I didn't realize that. So what are all these lines? Who are all these people? And secondly, they had a show store, which is where you got all of the cool, swag and all the stuff that was exclusive to the show. That line was also several hours deep. And I'm like, what is this? What was actually happening here? And sure enough, in my stupor of looking around and kind of looking at the teeming masses of Star Wars fans, I accidentally exited the conference. And when you exit the conference on the other side, there's no way for you to go back in until you go exit the building, walk around the other side to where there's the one checkpoint, and then go right back through the security line that you just went through. And I was so frustrated that. If you look back, I saved all these experiences on our Instagram as a moment or whatever. And I was just I'm so pissed right now. I'm going to go drink. So I went over to the bar and had a cheeseburger and drank a couple of beers just to calm myself down. I was like, oh man.
The true Midwestern way of calming yourself down.
Yeah. Self-soothing or whatever. So I go there and I meet some other not locals, but people from the burbs that had come in and just what is the crowd? What's going on? And so that was my first introduction, was on Thursday, which really there wasn't much happening, but I was frustrated and had to kind of sit down and get my mind right with a beer or two. And sure enough, when I go back out to get in the line, the line to get to the show floor actually went out the building now, and I didn't really understand what was happening. So I thought, okay, I thought the show floor was open, at this point. It's so the line is this bad just to get onto the show floor. I thought they were letting people in waves. And it turns out, no, that's just, it didn't open till 1, and I was an idiot. So I was complaining about it really hard on the internet, and obviously everybody else knew the drill.
Well, that's a general Padawan mistake,
Yeah. Newbie mistake. So immediately when I got my senses of myself and I realized what was actually going on, I calmed down and had a good time that day. And that was my day, just kind of walking around and trying to get pictures.
So what was it like seeing these super long lines littered with people dressed like Chewbacca or Rancor guards or any of that stuff?
I wish there was some Malakili. And there was not. There wasn't anything Rancor related. So
no,
just missed opportunity there. So that's one thing about conventions, that you just got to get your head correctly accepting. It's like going to Disney World, right? Everything's going to be a line. You just got to be patient, and all of these people are battle tested to wait in lines like these. So as much as you realize who in their right mind would be willing to spend 3 hours of this conference waiting this line to take a picture in the bay of the living area of the Millennium Falcon, well, actually plenty of people.
It's what they're conditioned for.
Yeah, they're conditioned for it. So you need to come there conditioned for it as well. And I think it took me a couple of days to realize, this is my life now for the next 5 days. I'm just going to be waiting in line for literally everything.
Just training for Galaxy's Edge.
Yep. This is somewhat is a tradition for Star Wars Celebration that I didn't realize until going there. But the app, the online experience, the things that are supposed to organize people just goes down. It goes down, Why would it stay up? So apparently the systems in the show store were down, and they were so terrible that people waiting in line for the show store actually waited for 8 hours, and some people waited 8 hours and were turned away. So they waited in line since like 11 a.m. and then were turned away when they were like trying to cap the line off at like 5.
That's terrible.
Or so, like they were waiting, before that. But yeah, the show store was insane. So there comes a gamble when you're talking about this. So you have to understand, like, well, when do I want to actually burn 3 hours to get to the show store? Which there was stuff in there that was worth it. Like I'm wearing actually some stuff, by the way, and you'll never understand the need that you have to get pins.
Oh yeah.
Until you go to a convention. Like I don't know why I wanted these. Why did I get these? I don't know. But I had to have them, and of course, the Chewbacca pin came with this cool bandolier. So I'm wearing this right now as a memory of all of the like $70 I spent on enamel pins. So
well, you Nick, let's be honest, you earned those enamel pins because you waited in line, proving your mettle, no pun intended, to get them.
I earned them by using $70 American to buy them. Yeah, sure.
And also by standing in place for long amounts of time.
Sure, yeah.
So that you can spend money.
I weighed all the pros and cons of which day I actually wanted to do it, and I chose on Friday afternoon to spend 3 hours in line waiting for the show store. And so I got in and bought a really cool shirt that looks like BB-8 made out of pizza because of Chicago and pizza, all that kind of stuff. I didn't pick up this shirt, but because it was just a little too inside-y for me. But there was a shirt that just said Hot Dogs, as in the recently closed restaurant of the same name.
Mm-hmm.
A tragedy that it was closed. And it was of Sebulba, who is, his race is called Doug. So
nice.
Yeah, a little play on words, and it was a Chicago style hot dog.
Crossover humor.
Can we make a quick sidebar on the note of hot dogs and
Absolutely.
Chicago style hot dogs?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm in Midway this weekend, waiting to get picked up by some friends, and they were going to be about 30 minutes. So I decided to get a snack, which is of course a hot dog and fries. So I go to, I think it's called Gold Coast Dogs in Midway.
Yep.
Anyway, the two people in line ahead of me order hot dogs with ketchup and mustard. The person behind me gets 2 hot dogs with just ketchup. Then I end up sitting at a table next to the people that got the ketchup and mustard hot dogs. They are eating these hot dogs, and I overhear one of them say, "I don't get what's so special about a Chicago dog."
And it took everything within you to
Oh my God, yes.
just absolutely hit them. I got to be a food snob for a couple of people because there's a lot of clueless people at this thing, let me tell you. And they're saying like, oh, we're going to go to Giordano's. We got reservations at Giordano's. Is like, slap that name from your vocabulary. Never speak this to me again. And I got to be the cool guy that wasn't with any groups of people, but just like butted in. And there's a couple of times that people were asking about pizza. What's it called? Pizza recommendations.
Oh, okay.
Pizzeria?
No, not that one. And I butted in and I go, since you guys are so into waiting in line, and that's not really a great premise to like talk to strangers. That was the first thing I said, and they look at me like I was about to be like,
"What's up, sheeple?"
Since you guys are okay with waiting in line because you're idiots. No, but then I was like, oh shit, they hate me already.
Bring it back, Nick. Bring it back.
Bring it back. And I go, there's a place called Pequod's that's going to be an automatic 3-hour wait. If you're willing, it's literally the best pizza of all time. So don't worry about it.
Wow. Did they think they went?
No, I don't think so. I think they didn't have time, and also Pequod's is a little far from.
Yeah, it's quite far.
Yeah. I don't know if their capacity can take in the same amount of people as Giordano's.
So I just said, forget Uno and Due. Don't go to Giordano's. Like, blech, go to Gino's or Lou Malnati's.
Lou Malnati's or Paisano's.
Yeah, Paisano's was another one I said. They go ahead, but I don't think there is a close one to McCormick either. But
again, screw you guys. I like Giordano's a lot.
I know, and you're stupid for it.
Guys,
so.
Giordano. If you want sausage and spinach, you go to Giordano's. For pepperoni and spinach, you go to Lou's.
No, okay.
Everyone knows that.
I could blow this whole thing up by letting you guys in on a little secret of mine. It's not
Don't
my
even
secret.
say it.
I eat my hot dogs with ketchup,
Don't say
onion, and that's it.
You can't see it on the podcast, but I'm having a stroke right now.
Yeah. So listen, I know you guys thought I was perfect, but I had to time to grow up. All right.
Yeah,
I eat
Grow
what
up,
I
snowflake.
eat. So,
How dare you?
well,
So anyway, I got to be a food snob, and I had a really awkward conversation with, got to be like the Chicago know-it-all. I was like, "Don't go there. You guys like waiting in line, huh?"
I mean, you were just trying to be helpful.
I also like told somebody the gospel of Au Cheval, and it's like, yeah, it's literally the best cheeseburger in the world. You'd have the fries, and when you're done, you're gonna cry a little bit, and then you might not ever like want to live this world knowing that you're not gonna have one for a while. And she goes, "I don't eat beef." I'm like, ugh.
Why are you in Chicago? Get out!
Like,
Get out!
She would eat pork, so she'd have pepperoni pizza, but will not have a cheeseburger.
That's weird.
And I was like, I can't be so meat normative. Segue.
Meat privilege.
About meat normativity. So there was one listener who recognized me, and it made my day.
Mm-hmm.
One listener who saw that I was wearing a fanny pack, and it was a Mickey Mouse fanny pack that I was posting on social media. And I don't know how. I don't know. I think she said her name was Sarah. She said she recently found the podcast.
Hi, Sarah.
And she came up to me and goes, "Fanny packs, sorry, British people."
Oh my stars.
And I like dropped whatever I was holding. I'm like, "Oh my god, how do you know?" And I think I gave her the weirdest like shake hand hug thing that I've ever like. Do you listen to this? Where did you find us? And then she's like, "Oh, someone posted it a couple weeks ago, and I listened for the first time."
Wow.
So I gave her a sticker, and I go, "Hey, I have pizza rolls because Patrick." My pizza roll game was on fleek that day.
Surefire guerrilla marketing trick.
And she goes, "Are those pepperoni?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I don't eat meat. Otherwise, I would totally hit you up on it." Sarah, I took that way better than I don't eat beef. Like at least it's like it makes sense if you don't eat meat, it makes sense to me. But if you don't eat beef but you have pork, like makes zero sense in my brain. But so the next day, or maybe it was that night, that evening, I went and bought cheese only. And then I tweeted out. I didn't know what her Twitter name was, or if she was even on social media. It's like, "Sarah, if you're out there, I have cheese pizza rolls for you."
Sounds like you're trying to win back your girlfriend or something.
Don't leave me. Please listen.
I know I don't pay attention to your food options, but
most likely, whatever episode that you heard us talk about fanny packs, sorry, British people, whatever episode is probably your last episode of hearing from us. But in case you're still with us, Sarah, can you let me know who you are on the internet? Because I would love to just at least know who you are and just apologize that I had, I'm so meat normative,
You should make a Craigslist misconnection post.
Yeah, true. But I don't want a romantic relationship. I just want a fan podcast relationship.
Good. Jenny would be quite upset.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Or maybe relieved. Who knows?
Yeah. So I made a big mistake, guys, at Star Wars Celebration.
I don't know. I mean, that was your first surprise fan encounter. And I would say, all things considered, you'd handled it fairly well. Yeah. Now, I have to ask you, now that you've experienced this for the first time, next time somebody comes up to you and either says a quote or something from it, are you going to handshake them or hug them?
I'm probably going to handshake and then say, "Can I give you a hug?"
Okay. So that sounds like that was your first kind of goof this time, was you didn't know which one. You're kind of overwhelmed, which I probably would have been exactly the same.
Because all over, and I've learned this from Joe Biden, all over the conference
Sorry, British
pamphlets.
People.
Yeah. Sorry, British people. Okay. Sorry. All over the conference, and in the pamphlet itself, it says cosplay is not consent.
Yeah.
So it's like listening to your podcast is not consent for people to hug you.
Yeah.
So
now I'm thinking about Joe Biden like smelling Chewbacca's hair and stuff.
Just like coming in close, like he somehow found where they were selling ice cream cones,
stroking Chewbacca.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, I found this ice cream cone. Come on over here."
He's wearing his aviators.
He like does the thing where he like grabs both shoulders with his hands to do the things. Like, "I'm right here. You don't have to pull me closer, you creep."
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's funny.
Bernie 2020.
What was I gonna say? Well, that's cool though. I think next time you'll be well equipped and prepared to.
I think so.
To engage with the fan base. I wish I could have been there at the celebration. It's pretty
Me too,
ridiculous that I live in Chicago and that I didn't go.
At least one day, right?
Yeah, but Nick reminded me, and I think it was like a month and a half out, and they were sold out at that point, so I couldn't go stand in line, unfortunately. So next year,
that's my fault, Patrick.
No, it's not. It's not your fault. It's my fault for not paying attention. So, but yeah, another time.
Good times, yeah.
It's
in Anaheim next year.
Well, there we go. More reason
Which
for me to
makes it very easy for me.
Yeah, so he will be. Alex will be our representative next year.
Yeah.
I ain't bringing pizza rolls though. For all the talk about pizza, I can no
Trail
longer
mix.
eat it. Yeah.
Right? Trail mix and good shoes. Yeah.
And good what?
Good shoes.
What about good? Oh yes. I always wear my good shoes. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't worry about you. Okay, so I made a big mistake, guys. We had the whole theme, and my whole peacocking outfit routine was going to be the pizza rolls thing.
Mm-hmm.
But turns out, if you're wearing a lanyard over it, you can't see the text at all. So nobody asked me about pizza rolls.
Dang it.
Yeah. But, however, Roku Depot, very avid listener of all Star Wars podcasts. In fact, he reviews Star Wars podcasts. He tweeted at me, he's like, "Hey, you still got any of those pizza rolls left?" And sure enough, and I'll post the picture, I found him. It took a concerted effort because it's a big conference and a lot of people. But I found him, and I go, this was at like 4 p.m. Like, you don't want these, sir. But you can hold them up in the picture.
This to yourself.
Yeah. So how about take a picture? So thank you, Roku Depot, for asking about the pizza rolls, and I'm glad you didn't have food poisoning from them. So you dodged a bullet there.
Shout out to Roku Depot.
Okay, bud.
And we have confirmation there was no food poisoning?
I didn't give him one, so if he got it, it wasn't from me.
Did he touch one?
No, it was in a plastic bag. It was in a Ziploc.
Okay, so we're good.
I put him in my fanny pack. Sorry, British people.
He touched his fanny. Sorry, British people.
Sorry, British people. Yeah. Okay, what else you guys want to know about? I'm gonna open this up. Ask me some questions.
I'm very much enjoying these stories, but so far, the crux of them has been I waited in line. I accidentally walked out of the building. 2 fan meetups, so those are positive.
Yeah.
What about just like a general like cool Star Wars thing? Did you go to a certain panel that was really cool, or did you?
Oh, yeah. The coolest Star Wars thing. I mean, I got to get into the room, so in the Wintrust Arena, which is the main panel area. I was in the room for the episode 9 trailer.
That is intoxicating.
That was the absolute pinnacle of the whole thing.
And you got to hear Palpatine's voice in person.
I got to see Papa Steve.
Yeah.
Papa Steve. He was there. I was there. I was in the room. He was here. I was right here. I'm gesturing right now.
You probably felt his voice from the sound waves hitting your body.
Absolutely. It was very, very, very surreal to be in the same room as Ian McDiarmid. So, wow. Anyway, I actually wasn't trying to get into leaks about this, obviously, at all, but I had no idea that Stephen Colbert was hosting.
That was cool. That was very cool.
Because up until that point, Warwick Davis was hosting every panel pretty much, or most of the major panels he was hosting. So I just assumed it would be him. And then they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Stephen Colbert." And I think I geeked out probably harder for that than I did the other celebrities.
Yeah, that is a little like cherry on top of the already very cool situation.
Yeah, so that was really nice, and he has his story. He has his May the 4th story that we should have shared on there about how he is a Star Wars fan 3 weeks earlier than anyone else.
Everybody, yeah,
because he saw Star Wars, because he saw like a special preview because he won tickets from his local, from his local radio, and he like went to school to tell everybody about it, and they're like, "What?" And then sure enough, 3 weeks later, everyone else was into it too.
Yeah, I have to say, so I was watching it on the YouTube stream to try and be there in spirit with Nick. Yeah. And one thing that I have to give a shout out to is over the last year, essentially since The Last Jedi came out, there's been like a really crazy like civil war in the Star Wars community, it feels like, between a lot of people who hated The Last Jedi and some of the more extreme detractors of that movie, and then a lot of the people who either were like, it was fine, or people who like really ardently defend it. And there's been a lot of like, bless you, Alex. You're good. There's been a lot of like, I guess, infighting, and you come to a place where you start thinking like, oh, has like the fan base of Star Wars changed? Do people hate Star Wars now? Is Star Wars ruined? Whatever. Kelly Marie Tran deleted her social media presence. You know, all this terrible stuff was happening in the name of fandom, whatever. And I saw the panel of all of the Rise of Skywalker cast coming out there, and when Kelly Marie Tran came out, there was a standing ovation for her, and the fan base was just like overwhelming with applause and cheering for her and all this great stuff, which was really nice to see, because I think we can both agree that regardless of how you felt about that movie, like, you should never go after the actors of the movie and harass them and, you know, belittle them all the time until they delete their online presence, you know?
Yep.
So that was really heartening to see, just like the love of the Star Wars community being thrown at pretty much everybody who was there, it seemed like.
Yeah, same exact thing happened to Ahmed Best, too.
Yes, the redemption of Ahmed Best.
Yeah, he came out. I think this might have been his first celebration, possibly, because, you know, by the time, I don't think he attended the first one in 99 because, you know, nobody would have known him yet. But I think by the time Jar Jar came out, he was already getting enough hate that, like, you know, it took a good 20 years for him to actually want to face a crowd. And everyone was very, very supportive. So I'll give it up to Star Wars fandom. They gave him the warm welcome. Now, if we could only get Jake Lloyd out of jail for long enough to do the same thing, I think maybe it would be very healing.
Yeah, and I think we're at a point now with a lot of these movies where every single character who has at one point been, you know, like thought of as like ruining the franchise, we can look back and say, like, we can still appreciate the actor for trying to contribute to the series, like whether it was Jake Lloyd or Hayden Christensen or Ahmed Best or Kelly Marie Tran, like all of them were just trying to contribute something, and they were literally just taking the words written by the screenwriter or the director or whoever and doing their best to make Star Wars fans happy. And so in the case of Ahmed Best, I think he's one of the most like sad stories about it, because like, there was just he was just, you know, doing exactly what George Lucas wanted and was trying his best, was just trying to make a career out of it, and he was just turned into, you know, a target of ire, you know.
Even more so than trying to add to the series and the story. Most of the people that have been really hated on for this, it's not like they were big working actors before. It's not like Hugh Jackman's coming in and messing everything up. These are people who it's either they take this acting job in this really big movie and make money and get their big break, or they keep working at Starbucks.
Yeah, in this case, Ahmed Best was like he was only known for Stomp because he was on the Broadway play of that. So this was his big break, and they reiterated because on Monday actually they had the 20th anniversary panel of Phantom Menace, so you boys would have been all up in that stuff, and they reiterated that this was very formative for mocap, so for motion capture. So Ahmed Best with his Jar Jar head on, so, you know, obviously they knew where to make eye contact, but the suit with the balls, you know, this was stuff that people weren't doing yet, or at least not to this extent.
Let's say it here, without Ahmed Best and without what Ahmed Best did, and just Jar Jar in general, we wouldn't have gotten Thanos.
We wouldn't have got Andy Serkis owes his friggin' career to Ahmed Best.
Yeah, like Ahmed Best took all of the abuse that, like, you know, could have been taken by any of the other ones for just giving it a shot. And this was an actor who had never really done any movies before, and they're throwing these ping pong balls on him, putting this like really weird scenario, and be like, all right, give us your best.
They were so give us your best, Ahmed. They were so unsure of whether or not this would actually work that he still wore sort of like a scaly bodysuit, just in case they needed to like cut to his actual like body. So they're like, oh, cool, you got to wear a mocap suit, but we're not actually sure we're gonna get anything. So here's like a thing too. So
yeah.
So
yeah, just general shout out to, I loved all the positivity I was seeing at Star Wars Celebration. It seemed like everybody was just like super happy to be around each other in the fandom, and very welcoming and engaging. So, and you can obviously speak to that, Nick, if you were experiencing that with other fellow neighbors at the celebration.
Yeah, being on that episode 9 panel was just a real real big highlight for me as a Star Wars fan. So I don't think I'll ever top that.
Yeah.
So all right, segue. So you're talking about fandom. You're talking about everybody enjoying each other. Let me give you a preface here. I think this right now Star Wars internet kind of sucks, especially Star Wars Twitter. It's just a bunch of infighting and civil war, like you said. You got even Mark Hamill retweeting like toxic, screenshots of what could have been, and like giving voice to all these morons that are being like abusive on the internet. It's okay for you to wish things on Star Wars and to not like some of the things that Disney's putting out, but come on, let's be nice to each other. So in that aspect, Star Wars Celebration was great because we're in person with a lot of people who have, trying to have a good time. In fact, like one of the main like baddies, quote unquote, in these, SJW versus Red Pill people, he was actually there and I saw him. His name's Jeremy. He is the main guy on the channel Geeks and Gamers, and he's obviously not causing any trouble while he's there. Probably not being terribly positive about everything either, but he was there. Everyone was there trying to have a good time, and it was just really awesome just kind of being with other people.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is it's once you put a lot of stuff on the internet, it's a lot easier to be way more intense and way more negative and way more like, I don't know, scathing towards other people or other things. Whereas if you're in person just talking to somebody, like if you were talking to someone who said they hated The Last Jedi at Star Wars Celebration, like people probably like, I disagree, like I don't know, maybe now it's taken on so many connotations that people are like, oh, you're racist, like if someone says they hate The Last Jedi, but the thought's still there that like a lot of the stuff, if you're among other fans, like there's a lot more good faith there than there is when you go on the internet.
So I'm gonna go down a different route now. I'm gonna go back in the dark recesses.
Take us there.
This is gonna be my Gonzo moment. So I decided after the peak of my Friday, which was when the episode 9 panel was, and that's also my peak commerce day. I think I spent the most money that day, whatever. I decided to take a few, let's call them supplements, on my way to the celebration on Saturday.
Yes, calcium.
Yeah, calcium supplements. They have real strong bones, and they kicked in right when the Galaxy's Edge panel started. So let's tell you about the places my mind went when thinking about Disney. Now, up until this point, you guys know I'm a big Disney fanboy. I go once a year. I like all the Disney properties. So, I'm a fan. I like to consume all of this media. Now, on the other hand, when when my neurons slow down and I'm able to take everything in, I realized how just messed up the commerce part of this whole weekend was. Like, not to mention all the lines to wait to go anywhere, but the whole thing is basically meant to try to extract money out of your wallet a little bit more, and using kind of the goodwill of all of the fans that are out there. Now, at this one point, and I'm wearing this shirt right now, but at the one point during the Galaxy's Edge panel, they have a big reveal. I don't know if you guys remember what this big reveal was. Do you guys remember?
I don't.
The big reveal was that they were going to be selling Coca-Cola at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And they were in like bottle shaped like balls, and they had like little the things on the plastic things on the top, and Coca-Cola and Coke Zero and Diet Coke was written in Aurebesh. Like, and people were like having standing ovations as they wheeled this cart out with bottles of Coke. And I go, you mean? And I think I literally mumbled this to myself. I was like, you mean to tell me we're all cheering that we could all get $10 Cokes at Disney? And sure enough, they bought my they bought my allegiance once again, because they said everyone gets a shirt that says Coca-Cola and Aurebesh. So I'm wearing it right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, oh, a shirt, yay! Okay, and then I left the room.
Not to be a total cynic, but like that's just kind of everything at this point. And you do realize everything you just said about the commerce aspect of it and people being dumb for applauding that they can pay for Coke is exactly how I feel about every single Apple product.
Well, sure. And that was the rest of the conference, too. It wasn't just about Coke. Like, the whole thing was you waiting in line to pay money for more things or waiting in line to see the next commercial about the thing that you're going to pay money for in a couple of months. So it's like you're either the movie that's gonna remove money for your wallet, or the theme park that's gonna remove money for your wallet, or the Funko Pop that's exclusive for some reason and is a 5-hour line to get. Like that was the whole thing, was just commerce. And yes, that's what it is, and that's what I understand. But there's one moment, and I'll leave the Disney park thing for a second, but they were talking about the character Nine Numb, and we all know Nine Numb, right?
Mm-hmm. Lando's co-pilot.
Lando's co-pilot. He's got the foldy things on his mouth. So they were talking about how authentic that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was going to be. And they Nine Numb is involved in some way. He might be on one of the rides. I don't think there's an animatronic of him, although there is a really cool animatronic of Hondo Anako, who's from the Clone Wars. So anyway, they could not find the original voice actor who did Nine Numb, and they couldn't find an agent. They didn't know who this they knew this person, but they couldn't get him by phone. And so they like bragged about the fact that they flew to Kenya and had to track down a man that probably wants nothing to do with this anymore, and they sat him down and made him do Nine Numb voice and like do like new things in his dialect. And I just thought it was so funny, because it's like, you know why we did this, guys? Because we thought that you fans would care about something like this. I'm like, could you just leave him alone?
Like, we ripped a man away from his family and held him at gunpoint for the fans.
Like reach him on phone. Like, you can't reach him by the phone. I'm sure he has different thoughts and priorities and hopes and dreams in his life than doing stupid 2 lines for a park that he'll never afford to get into. Like, it was just the weirdest like first world exploitation of the third world that I've ever seen. And it just immediately, like, my high brain just like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Were the fans like standing ovationing?
Yeah, like, oh yeah, original Nine Numb, hell yeah. So,
man, that's when I miss Lucas in those situations, because that's the difference between the Disney machine and Lucas, because Lucas would have just CGI'd it somehow, or like taken some like weird sample of his voice from the old trilogy and just like resampled in a weird way, Because
Nine Numb, I don't know if he speaks into The Force Awakens, but I think he does say something, right? He's flying an X-wing.
Yeah, he shows up.
I didn't notice it then. Like, I don't know if I need it. It's fine.
And will any of the purists even be like, that's not his real voice? Like, like, I don't know.
It sounds a little different than
it's a bit much. His octave is at least 3 pitches lower.
I think it is attributed to the dry climate of Kenya. I mean, they should have just gone with someone else.
If Disney truly respected fans, they would go and abduct a man from his house in Kenya. But it's just what I said.
And it's bad enough. I'm gonna get to the thesis of what I went through on Saturday, and how my brain was reacting to all the commerce happening. Because of course, I'm gonna buy all the stuff. Like I said,
he's like, I am outraged, but yes, I'm
gonna buy all the stuff. I spent $70 on pins, for fucking sake. I'm wearing them right now. It's this whole thing. And as much as I'm sort of getting to the point of being reposting anti-capitalist memes and all this stuff, like using the terms late stage capitalism, like there was like a ridiculousness that popped into my brain that I just absolutely abhorred it for a while, because not only was this just a difference in commerce, but I understood, like my high brain said, you know what, fandom is the new serfdom. So hear me out here, guys. We will not accept an economic system anymore of serfdom. So by serfdom, I mean feudalism, where we have a lord that we live on his property and
masters,
and we till his fields, and he gives us a cut of it or whatever. So there's like this, it's like Game of Thrones style serfdom where you're serving one person. We will not accept that as an overt, economic system, but we will take it as our pop culture. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there are literally tiers of social hierarchy, from obviously the celebrities which we will pay $50 to say hi to, there are the not as high up celebrity tiers, so the ones that maybe even cost a little bit lower than that, or like say the other podcast hosts that are actually famous, unlike myself and you guys.
Don't sell yourself short.
I'm not speaking for you, but like there's this weird pecking order and social hierarchy of like people freaking out about the possibility of somebody shooting a t-shirt cannon from like Hayden Christensen or something like that. Like there's this just really strange like devotion to certain lords of entertainment that we will accept in our entertainment lives, but we will not accept as a form of economic, like, I guess, ethos. You guys know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that we already do in our economic ethos because look at your 9-to-5 desk job. Like, that kind of already has that structure to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure, but that's like regular capitalism, right? That's still like the exploitative capitalism that you would expect, as opposed to like this was like literally like serfdom. Like I don't go like when our CEO walks by my desk, I don't fawn and like.
So it's the idolization that you are kind of concerned with.
Yeah, like I guess like while I was there, I couldn't care less about celebrities. Like it didn't even cross my like you know, if Daisy Ridley walked past me, I'd kind of probably stare for a bit because she's very attractive. But like I wouldn't like, oh my god, it was Daisy Ridley, and she kind of looked at me. Like these folks that were just like falling over themselves for celebrities. I found way more joy meeting the two guys from Star Wars Minute. Like you should have seen me like trying to like talk to them. Like oh my god, yeah, you guys, I listen to you on every commute, and like they were very gracious and really two really nice guys. But like to me, they were my celebrities while I was there.
Yeah, I guess I would say like. I feel like it's not fair for me to even give an argument because I didn't even go to Star Wars Celebration. But I would say that, like, just from what I'm hearing from you and what I was seeing in the stream and what I've seen from, like, Comic-Con and stuff like that, is that I see more similarity to, like, evangelical churches or something like that. Where it's this idea of everyone being there in community of celebration of of common set of, like, value they've put into a thing or a concept or a story or, you know, characters they care about, and basically giving all of that out and sharing in that with other people, and other people might have placed that more into certain aspects of that thing. So yours is more of like you have a lot of adoration for the other critics and the other bloggers and the other creators who are also fans. But then there might be people who, like, if they see certain artists who did the stuff for, like, the Darth Vader comic book, they'll lose it over them. Or, like, if they see a certain figurine that they have been wanting to collect, they'll lose it over that. Then there's some people
they're
who
like
are
the lesser
purely...
lords, right? You know?
Yeah, I guess I just don't see it as like a... I feel like you're saying it as if there's like a condescension inherent in it, and I don't really feel.
Am I being condescending?
No. I'm saying that
okay.
It sounds like you're saying that like these aspects of Star Wars fandom or fandom in general can have a condescending nature that basically makes a lower than status, right? Is that fair to say? Yeah. So
that's sort of how I felt, and maybe this was a little bit of an inferiority complex because like I wanted to be that, right? Like when I was sitting in some of the live podcasts, like it was like this should be us. Why is this not us?
Well, I think it naturally also just comes from a fact where it's like you're celebrating Star Wars for Star Wars' sake, but then it's also just a reminder that Star Wars is also a revenue-creating machine.
Yeah,
and that
we're all repackaging this property that doesn't belong.
And
to
you were
us.
Also in like the most market-centric panel, I feel like, or most blatantly market-centric panel of it, where they're announcing like, "Come to this park where we will find 18 inventive ways for you to buy things you don't need and be tricked and manipulated emotionally," and any of that stuff. I want to say, full disclosure, I still completely intend on going to Galaxy's Edge and going to the resort and dressing up in the
Give me those $10 Cokes. Give them to me right now.
Yeah, so... But yeah, I think sometimes the veil can be pulled back a little bit and you can look at it from more of an objective viewpoint and be a little disturbed. So, yeah.
So I went home that night and I watched The Last Jedi and read kind of some anti-capitalist takes on The Last Jedi because it's the latest big one other than Solo. And there was like a good point that I think a lot of us were overlooking is, you know, the fact that so many people were disappointed at Luke being a failure. It should be a tell that like Luke, you know, heroes should disappoint you, because the more that you look at them and deify them and like over fetishize your nostalgia for them, they should disappoint you because they're regular people just like you. So when we exalt Mark Hamill or if we exalt who's somebody who's let us down lately. I don't know. Probably some. Yeah, I bet you probably have someone from the MCU that you can think of. But like, there's this one thing. Like, they're just people, and we've sort of put this strange pastiche of bowing and scraping into this event, which is totally fine. I understand. I think good counterpoint to that was Ray Park. Was literally like Ray Park just walked around everywhere. He showed up to. I kid you not. There was a Raylo meetup. You guys know what Raylo is?
Yeah.
There was a Raylo meetup at the Bean, and he showed up and took pictures with everybody. Like, and it wasn't like in a weird like, hey, I'm better than you. He's just like, I'm a Raylo too, you know? Like, because his name is Ray Park.
Hey, look, I'm gonna do another flip, and now I'm gonna do a third flip.
Let me do a stance where I put my arm out, you know. And then he was all jacked up on his Instagram all week. He's like, I love Star Wars Celebration. And then he was there like the last day as they were tearing down. It's like, I'm still here, but I'm still chatting up everybody. So
I'm gonna do another flip. Look at this one.
Ray Park gave me so much hope for Star Wars society because he's one of us.
What a nice man.
He's the proletarian, you know.
Yeah. Nice. Well, so that's a nice hot take / edge to have on your general fun time. Star Wars Celebration.
Thank you guys for hearing me out. This was a more coherent thought when I was high.
No, I appreciate it. It's a fun conversation.
Yeah, but that was how we felt. Overall, like, am I going to go to another Star Wars Celebration? Absolutely, yes. Maybe not next year's because I don't want to go to California because, ugh. But
hey,
no, just kidding. California is literal utopia. But I will go to another Star Wars Celebration. I will spend all the monies, but it's really strange, like how just hawkish that Disney is, and how good of a move buying Lucasfilm is from like the highest of capitalism ever. Like they might as well be our new ExxonMobil. I mean, because we're gonna lose fossil fuels someday, but we're never gonna lose Disney and Star Wars.
And that's the thing. There's a plus and a minus to them having Star Wars. The minus is kind of what you said, is that Disney is great at wringing every bit of value out of a property in every way it can.
Yeah.
But the perk is they're great at finding the things that the fans want and basically amplifying them to a level of accessibility and like theatricality so that like it's an event. Like, I mean, Star Wars movies have already been an event to go to, but like I think that we're going to get more and more like The Mandalorian now. Like The Mandalorian is so exciting. It's such an exciting prospect, and I don't think that ever would have happened before, Star Wars got bought by Disney, and also just all the comics and all this great stuff. So it's definitely pluses and minuses to it. And
we get all the resources in the world.
Yeah.
But they just got to be able to cash in on it too.
And I think Bob Iger, he takes a lot of inspiration from First Chronicles 29:12, which says, "Riches and honors come from you, and you are the ruler of everything. Power and might are in your hand, and it is your hand to make great and to give strength to all." I feel like he's really embodied that when looking at Star Wars over the last few years.
Yeah, he thought I was talking about him right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You are a scourge on this podcast, Alex. I say that with love.
That took a lot out of me to finally tell you guys how I felt. But overall, the people are what made Star Wars Celebration great, and not the commerce, although it was fun. But it was being with like-minded dorks.
Yeah,
really, that made it for me.
Here, I'll quote to do my little nerd plug for each episode. I'd like to quote Thor Ragnarok, but modified. Star Wars is not a place, it is a people. So the Star Wars, no matter how many crappy movies come out, the fan base, I think, and this might be optimistic of me, I think it'll always be there, because there's always going to be a fan base of people who are creating their own lore or expanding on the lore or retconning or plugging loopholes from the lore and basically keeping the dream and the universe of Star Wars alive through their own efforts and their own creativity. So it's always going to be there, and that's the real heart of Star Wars, is the fans who are obsessed with it. so it doesn't really matter that the bulbs of Coke are being made for Star Wars Land, whatever. Like that's all just like, stuff on the side. If you want one, go get one. Cool. But the real meat and potatoes are the fans. So
Man, I'm getting real thirsty now. All of a sudden, maybe I could go for a nice ice cold thing of tap water.
I could go for Coke.
What do you think Bob Iger makes a year?
I don't want to
think he
think
makes
about
so
it.
much money that it's like a black hole, and it actually is like negative money.
It cancels out.
65.7 million.
Wow.
Yeesh.
That's got to be one of the highest salaries I've ever heard. Like, obviously, people make more money than that, but it's usually not in salary form. Jeez.
Yeah, just straight up, not even stock options, man. Yeah, so the thesis of that, don't let it rule you. You rule Star Wars,
Someone
right?
at my door again.
It's Bob Iger. He heard you
Is it
talking
more-
shit.
They're buying him. They're buying off Alex right now by like, hey, we read one of your transcripts and we want to make it into a movie.
Oh, thank
Here's a bulb of Coca-Cola.
Here's a bulb of Coca-Cola. Now, just ditch those other morons on the call with you. It's just us now.
You're a good God-fearing man, Alex.
No tamales this time. It was just a delivery. Usually they just leave it and go.
I was thinking like maybe Disney was listening in and they like came to buy one of your screenplays just to keep your silence.
Oh my God, if only. 65.7 million. I only need like a tenth of that for anything I've ever written.
Well, you're all set, dude.
I'll settle for a cool meal.
Cool meal.
But yes. I think that all is very true. And you were talking about fossil fuels, Nick.
It was, yeah.
Which that brings me to my Wikipedia entry of the episode.
Here we go.
This is a simple one. As most of the best ones are. There's a article about nitrogen. Yep. And they felt the need to include the sentence in all the descriptions of nitrogen. And I quote, liquid nitrogen was very cold.
Hell yeah.
That is its own section. There is nothing else about what the cold is used for, what liquid nitrogen is used for. Just liquid nitrogen was very cold.
Okay.
Hell yeah, guys.
All right. You got to keep
Well, on
those
that note,
Coke bulbs cold.
so I'm gonna go into lightning round. Just say all the other cool freaking stuff that I got to do. So there was a what's it called? A scavenger hunt where you had to go and find QR codes, and there were 30 QR codes. They're actually kind of hard to find. Supposedly, if the dark side won, because we were all split off into groups, and so whoever found the most QR codes, they were like into a drawing with prizes to get more pins. Apparently, there was also a game demo table where I got hooked on a game called Star Wars Destiny. Patrick, you and I might have to play this. It's kind of like a Magic the Gathering type thing with dice.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was fun. And there's a game that wasn't out yet, and it drove me crazy because I just wanted to go buy it with my American money. And because they had this like manufactured scarcity of everything, like the Funkos, like, come on, it's a piece of plastic. The manufactured scarcity made me want it even harder, even though that I know it's probably going to go on sale for May the 4th. So I could go get it like on the internet, like a regular pleb. But they're releasing 5 at a time every morning. But it's called Star Wars Outer Rim, and it looks awesome. I want to play some tabletop games with y'all. But then all of the pictures that I did with the different 501st people that made dioramas and different installations were all really fun. So overall, I mean, people were putting their commerce to work.
Man, I would love to spend time with the 501st. I feel like that's one of the coolest aspects of any major Star Wars gathering.
Yeah. They were very friendly.
Nice.
They wanted you to be a part of it. You know, even though they have a very, they're spending a lot to get into this line of work, but they wanted you to be a part of it. And also, here you go. Here's a very appropriate pin. May the 4th be with you.
Hey, I recognize that phrase.
I'm gonna have to wear that this weekend.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like a nice special time. Exhausting. I would say, but
my ankles still hurt.
He has to get his legs amputated. But it sounds like it was a good time and makes me feel even more regretful that I was not there. But it increases my drive to go to Anaheim and wear some sort of outfit. Perhaps I'll be a fanny pack. Sorry, British people. Boba Fett.
We're gonna have even better ideas next year, Patrick.
Yeah,
just you see, man.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll do something special. So, well, cool. Well, I'm glad you made it back alive, Nick.
Yeah, I'm here. I made it back to my house. A whole 5 miles from the convention center.
You gave some good pizza Rex.
Yep, good pizza Rex. So everyone thought I was gonna be a rude jerk, but I was actually just kind of a mild jerk. So.
Nice. Oh, great. I feel like that is our summary of
Hey,
Star Wars
Annalise
Celebration. Here. Annalie, hi.
Just noticed. Okay, thanks, Alex, for posting because I didn't see our girl for a bit here.
Come on.
Yeah. The spoiler alert might be something in the mail for you soon.
Not in a threatening way. He says it.
Yeah. No. Oh my God, that sounded terrible.
In a good way.
In a good. You're gonna get the good kind of mail.
Yeah. Well, I feel weird ending the podcast with that.
Okay. So, if you did, shout out to Sarah. Please, if you haven't given up on us, please tweet at me and I'll say I'm sorry for being meat normative. But everyone else, you should be following us on Twitter. You should like and subscribe on YouTube because we're putting out some content. I'm going to take the 2 hours of whatever we just did and make it into something palatable for you all. And of course, tell your friends and give us a good review on iTunes. There
also, if you went to Star Wars Celebration, tweet us and let us know what your experience was like.
What was your favorite memory of the Star Wars feudalism that we went through?
If you want to engage
which
in political
lord
discussion.
Which Star Wars lord did you swear your fealty to? Because mine was Ray Park.
Oh yeah, he's a good house. That's kind of more like his Game of Thrones house.
House Park. He's like House Stark.
House Park. Nice. All right, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up with that. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time, we've been Star Wars Loose Cannon. You guys are wonderful. We love you. Thank you for listening.
I'm gonna do another flip though.
Do another flip day. You see my flip day. And stream.